Hey everyone, welcome back to News Now Nexus. If you're new here, I'm Emmanuel Bassi, and this channel is all about breaking news. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on our exciting new content. Let us dive into today's breaking news.
Topic for today: children mercilessly killed by Hamas in Israel massacre, a glimpse inside the Gaza siege. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has reached a tragic and devastating point, with both sides experiencing tremendous loss and suffering. This video delves into the recent events in the region, focusing on the harrowing stories of innocent children caught in the crossfire, the unparalleled response promised by Israel, the heavy bombardment of Gaza, and the ongoing violence that has claimed countless lives. The heartbreaking loss of innocent lives. The conflict has witnessed the merciless killing of children, who are the most vulnerable victims of this tragic situation. We explore the stories of young lives cut short by the violence and the emotional toll it takes on families and communities. Unprecedented response by Israel. In the aftermath of the recent atrocities, Israel has promised an unprecedented response. We analyze the implications of this pledge and its potential consequences for the already volatile situation in the region. Gaza under siege. The situation inside Gaza is dire. With the border secured by the Israeli military, the territory faces the heaviest bombardment in its history. An eyewitness report provides a glimpse into the suffering and despair experienced by the people of Gaza. The Israeli city of Ashkelon. Residents of Ashkelon, an Israeli city near the Gaza border, have been living under constant threat. We examine the impact of the warning issued by Hamas militants and the subsequent rocket fire on the city, which has left the community in a state of uncertainty and fear. The toll of war. The conflict has now entered its fifth day, with devastating consequences for both Israelis and Palestinians. The video provides an overview of the human toll, the destruction in Gaza City, and the immense loss of life. Eyewitness reports. A first-hand account of the situation inside Gaza sheds light on the daily struggles, fears, and hopes of the people living under siege. This perspective humanizes the conflict and emphasizes the urgency of finding a peaceful resolution. The role of media and footage. Media outlets and shared footage play a critical role in documenting the conflict. We explore the impact of visual evidence, including images and videos, on the international community's perception of the situation. The ongoing violence. Despite international calls for a ceasefire, the violence continues to escalate. We discuss the challenges of ending the conflict and the urgent need for diplomatic efforts to bring about a lasting peace.
I was trying to explain things, but I think you can hear them now. I'm walking right now close to my home, close to my building, but I swear I couldn't recognize the streets. I'm also afraid walking because any minute anything may explode.
This afternoon I met Plestia on the street close to where her home once was.
Now it's not even safe to walk. Like as you can see here, this building caught a fire as well, other than the bombardments that happened. So it's not safe, nothing is safe, literally.
Now nothing is recognizable.
This is an ambulance.
She's afraid of what's happening now and what might happen next.
The Israeli military have continued to block off access to some of the sites of the worst atrocities committed by Hamas militants. We were, however, able to gain access to one kibbutz, one small community that came under attack, and walking around, it was clear that the residents stood no chance against the gunmen. The latest report suggests that a total of around 1,500 Hamas militants infiltrated from the Gaza Strip into Israel, and some reports suggest that some of the victims may have been decapitated, beheaded, but really such a horrific level of violence was used. The bodies of so many of the victims are in such a bad condition that it's hard to know if it's true or not. What is clear is that men, women and children were ruthlessly and mercilessly killed. A warning that some of the images in our report are distressing.
We're asking you, let the team work. Guys, let the team work.
They're still finding dead bodies here. We're in a small, tight-knit community, torn apart by horrific violence.
heavy-duty machine gun. Against, they shoot people with those.
The inhabitants of Kfar Aza have either fled, been taken hostage or murdered. Festive decorations put up shortly before the attack still hang from homes. The Israeli military have brought us here as they finish sweeping the area. Amongst the debris, unexploded grenades. Walking through here, seeing what's left of people's homes, people's lives, you get a sense of just how terrifying it must have been for the residents when the gunmen launched their assault. Some of the bodies of the militants are still here. There's a strong smell of death in the air. Israel has been left traumatized by just how deadly this rampage was.
Down, stay together, guys.
And there's still the threat from rockets fired from Gaza. The focus now, the awful task of retrieving and identifying bodies. This salvage team has just arrived here from the site of the massacre at a music festival.
Some of them try to hide, and we see them in a position like defending position. And this is pretty much, you asked me about what I saw, the smell there, the thinking about what they had in their few seconds of life. And last one, about the freight, about the horror that they went through.
Teachers Shlomi and Shah are just two of the hundreds upon hundreds of victims murdered in their homes. They believed in peace between the communities and sent their daughter Shir to a school with Jewish, Muslim and Christian children. She spent hours terrified and alone in a safe room whilst the attack took place.
I couldn't turn on the lights. Will they hear me? Will they know I'm home?
As we talk, warning sirens blare.
As long as you're in Israel, you're a threat.
There have been barrages of rockets throughout the day. We're in a hospital where Shir's teenage brother is undergoing surgery. He was with her parents when they died.
We talked to our brother and we asked him what happened. I told him, I need to know. He said that as soon as the red alerts started, they ran into the safe room and they heard at some point glass breaking, and then they heard people walking in their house, and they heard them outside of the safe room speaking in Arabic. And my dad said they put a mattress in front of the door, and my mom told my brother to hide between the bed and the wall. And then there was a big explosion, and my brother said he heard my dad saying that he lost his arm. And they started shooting everywhere, and my mom died on him. She died protecting him, and she told him everything will be all right. And he was alone for so many hours, and he was wounded, and nobody could help him.
This country is still trying to process what's happened. No one thought anything like it was possible under the watch of Israel's powerful military and intelligence services. What happened here is obviously so horrific, but speaking to relatives of the victims, there's also a lot of anger at how long it took Israeli forces to respond, why what more wasn't done to prevent the militants getting here in the first place.
I feel angry. Everybody in the army feels angry from top down, and we know that we're going to do the deepest analysis of how this happens. This never can happen again.
What went wrong?
You know, I think it's going to take us weeks and months to really figure that out, and we're going to do it because these are our people.
Heavy artillery now faces off towards the Gaza Strip. Israel is vowing to eliminate the threat from Hamas, and the country seems united behind that. But the coming days are likely to see more lives lost. from the Gaza Strip, particularly targeting the southern city of Ashkelon. These rockets, though, compared to the kind of massacres that we've seen over the weekend, well, they don't cause anywhere near that level of death and destruction. Where possible, I've been trying to
compile this eyewitness report, and once again, a warning. It is distressing from the very start.
You can't hear yourself think. It's not just the noise of the sirens and the strikes. The sound of the chaos in between is just relentless. Pure panic everywhere you look. This little boy was pulled out alive, his face blackened. His rescuer rushes to his mother. But before she can embrace her boy, she passes out in a shock. Any car becomes an ambulance. This woman is driven off before the boot can be shut. We've been told to get out, but where do we go? And how do we get there? There are more than 2 million people living here. Almost half are children. Families are rushing, trying to make plans. Every second matters. Gaza is under a complete siege. No water, no food, no electricity, and no escape. It's too hard. Some almost give up. But you can't stand still for long.
Please, my family, they're just kids.
We are not strangers to war, but how it feels this time. It's hard to find the words. It feels like the world is collapsing. Many are confirmed dead, even more are missing. This woman cannot find her son.
I haven't heard from him since Saturday. I haven't heard anything from him, nothing.
Well, the Gaza Health Ministry says that 830 Palestinians have already been killed in the bombardment, while the UN Human Rights Chief said that Israeli strikes had hit residential buildings and schools. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Porrick O'Brien, has been examining the situation inside Gaza, and his report too contains distressing images from the very outset.
If you live in Gaza, the only thing worse than experiencing last night's bombardment, the prospect of worse to come. Retribution in the ruins of localities like Ramal and Khan Yunis. The names of neighborhoods that will map out Israel's reaction to Saturday's attack. This is the geography of retaliation, an earthquake of airstrikes across the Gaza Strip, likely to continue for days. The Israelis say they are warning people to evacuate buildings in advance of strikes, a courtesy not afforded those murdered on Saturday. Abu Mohammed Hassouna says a neighbor, who was not at home at the time, received a warning call from the Israeli Defense Forces and started running towards the building, with the IDF caller still on the line. According to Abu Mohammed, the caller said they had 5 to 10 minutes.
People started running. I was sheltering in an alley with my brother and his children. Suddenly, we heard the explosion. My brother's children were standing in a doorway. They became martyrs.
The 2 children were killed in the blast last night, according to their uncle. In a statement, the Israeli Defense Forces said they'd targeted this particular neighborhood, Ramal, because it, quote, serves as a hub for the Hamas terrorist group, from which many of the attacks against Israel were launched, they said. Together with the West Bank, Gaza makes up the Palestinian territories. It takes about an hour to drive from top to bottom. It's only 25 miles long. But it's home to 2.3 million people. And evacuating high-rise buildings, for example, getting people out into the cramped warren of streets below, means that even with warnings, hundreds of civilians will die in the days to come. Nearly all the largest neighbourhoods have been hit. Rafah and Khan Yunis in the south, Beth Hanan and the Shati and Jabalia refugee camps. But it's the Ramal district in Gaza City itself, which is in the process of being wiped off the map. These women epitomise the deadly bind that many Gazans are now in. Samu Abu Latifa's family fled a different neighbourhood to Khan Yunis in the south, as advised. But it was also bombed overnight. Her brother and 2 family members were killed. We were told to come here, she says, but all we found was death. If we stay in our homes, we die, she says. If we go out onto the street, we die. The world is closing in on these women, with no realistic prospect of escape. After Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip in 2007, Israel imposed a blockade. Residents aren't allowed leave without the proper permits. Right now, no one is getting in or out of Gaza via the 2 crossings into Israel. Then there's the Rafah crossing into Egypt. This was Rafah today. It was also attacked. The Egyptians blamed Israel. The upshot, that crossing is now also shut. In other words, Gazan civilians have no way out. And into this pressure cooker, the prospect of a possible ground offensive, Israeli troops gathering on the border. The Gaza Strip is often described as an open-air prison. Now even its walls are closing in.
The count of casualties. The video examines the heartbreaking figures regarding the casualties in the conflict. Both sides have suffered immense losses, with hundreds of lives lost in Gaza and Israel. The call for humanity. In the face of such suffering, there is a growing call for compassion and empathy. We highlight the importance of global solidarity and humanitarian aid to alleviate the dire situation in the region. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has reached a critical juncture, with tragic consequences for children, families, and communities on both sides. The ongoing violence, heavy bombardment, and heartbreaking loss of life underscore the urgent need for a peaceful resolution. The international community must come together to support efforts to end the conflict, provide humanitarian assistance, and ensure that such devastating events do not recur in the future.
That wraps up today's video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it and found it entertaining, informative, helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I really love to hear from you. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and join our community by hitting that subscribe button. Until next time, this is Emmanuel Bassi from News Now Nexus, signing off. Stay positive, curious, adventurous, etc., and see you in the next video. God bless.